out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Flim flam Tim Flam.
Ryan.
Hi.
Hello.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And hello to everyone across time and space who may be listening. Hello and welcome to episode 54 of Dismembering Horror, the podcast show where, well, myself, Ryan McDuffie,
and myself, Tim Aslin,
we dismember a horror film every week, every Thursday, in fact. And what does it mean, Tim, to dismember a horror film?
We watch a horror film, and then we talk about said horror film in three distinct ways. 1, what worked?
Ching.
2, what did not work?
Ching.
3, things that were interesting or noteworthy.
Ching. That's it.
The end.
And we do our unique rating system at the beginning.
Oh, we haven't talked about that in a while.
we do our summary, which is to see what the heck we made of this film. And we hope that you've watched the film and can join us in the spirit of what was sort of the inception for this podcast, which is capturing the spirit and fun of you watch a horror film with a buddy, and then you get to talk about it all. You get to break it down because it's horror. It's always fun to do, no matter what. And if you don't have a buddy immediately there, you got us.
Oh, we're here for you.
And even if you haven't watched the film and still get something out of it, then great. We welcome you too. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I guess that would work. I think I've listened to stuff where I haven't seen what they're, the film they're talking about. And it's fine.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple listeners who do that. They enjoy it because they don't like horror movies. They don't like watching horror movies, but they're fascinated by like the stories or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, as long as they aren't missing out on, something they never see anyways. And speaking of which, what did we watch this week, Tim?
An Italian, is it Italian? Yeah, an Italian terror film. That's what I call it.
Uh-huh.
It's called The Beyond.
Yes, but what did we watch, Tim?
Your guess is as good as mine on this one.
Great. We're going to have a fun adventure.
There was a lot of me asking that question.
Me too.
What the fuck is going on?
Well, you were supposed to tell me because I was wondering too. Well, let's try to figure it out best we can together and jump in and watch the trailer, yeah?
Sure.
All right, here it is for an indeed Italian film, Tim. The Beyond.
You are Liza, aren't you?
Yes.
My name is Emily. I've been looking for you. Go back to where you came from and hurry. Leave this place.
Wow, that was a 3.5 minute trailer, which you only heard a partial amount of, but yeah.
Yeah, if you don't want to watch this movie, just watch that trailer. And
that was actually
basically get the whole movie.
Yeah, it was a complete summary of the movie, and I'd say also good summation of the film in that you'd think you'd understand what it was about by the end of the 3.5 minute trailer, but you don't.
I mean, I thought I'd understand what it was about after 90 minutes of it, and I didn't.
That's my point, exactly.
So, yeah. Same result.
Yep. All right, well, there was the trailer, so now on to our rating.
Yep. Let's recap our rating system here.
Okay.
Highest to lowest praise. Would you buy it for yourself?
Ourselves.
Would you rent it for ourselves? Would you just stream it for ourselves?
Would we just...
Or would we just avoid it for ourselves?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would not pay money for this. But I'd stream it.
Me too. I'd stream it. All its pluses were pretty plussy.
Yeah.
As far as the gore moments and some things we'll get into that made me just want to give it a rent it, because I always try to like something about these giallo films though. I don't know, man. It's miss more than hit for me.
Yeah.
I hate to say.
I agree. They're super charming in that aspect of like just ridiculous. And I appreciate that, but
you got to have other stuff.
Yeah, like there's got to be some threads that are worthwhile.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, they just feel like arbitrary sequences.
Right. That was the thing. It's not like it's like you could have all these great standout gore scenes and kind of setting, and just have everything else kind of more on like the level of a Hammer for a film, where it can be like slow, but it's never really like bad. There's something always cool about it, but this, I'd say it's actually, there's stuff detracting for me versus it's just being. That's the difference for me.
There's certainly a line between, plotting story that just sort of meanders and no story that slogs and meanders.
Yeah.
And like no amount of fun eyeballs getting fucked with.
For me, it was as if like we kept getting teased with story.
Yeah.
That made me want it. So, and it just was never there.
Yeah.
Because I'm okay with nonsensical meandering, how do we get here, in theory. But it was just that it kept presenting this other movie that wasn't there, at least. I mean, hey, again, this is our just subjective viewing of it, but I was wanting something else I wasn't getting when watching this.
Yeah. Well, let's summarize that for a little more context. So, the story is Liza buys a hotel that's a rundown hotel from in New Orleans, and she's fixing it up, and in doing so she has various workers come by to work on it,
and we know it's got some shady history because we saw about 40 years 50 years 60 years
60 I think
60 years prior that some people threw what was it, like
artist.
hot plaster on someone, and that they were going on about demons or hell or something like that.
Yeah, they hate art.
Yeah. So some sordid, hellish history to this place.
And then because of, like trying to figure out why the basement is flooded and whatever, they discover or open, I guess, the gateway to whatever, the beyond.
It starts in this modern time with the painter seeing a beyond person. And what a beyond person is a person with the whited out eyes. I don't know what else to call them, because we have because we also have zombies.
Yeah, we sure do. Yeah, right. Not the artist painter, but the like house painter.
Right. So there's a house painter.
He dies because he sees a woman with these whited out eyes.
And then so we have this main woman, Liza.
Yeah.
And her buddy that she makes, Dr. John McCabe. Mm-hmm. Her and him kind of are pseudo solving this mystery.
Yeah.
But just kind of
it's really just him telling her to shut up and her being like, I'm not crazy.
Right. And then like she goes and makes friends with another beyonded woman who seems like she's a good guy and exists on her own in her own scenes, yet also doesn't exist to Dr. John.
Right.
Okay. And then so they go around and they don't really get anywhere.
It's a series of everybody we've met meeting their demise.
Through kind of ways that you never get what
Right.
what the Beyond's function is, or like
It's certainly connected to the artist who is murdered there. So there's sort of, he seems like the driving force. And the other animated or reanimated sort of corpses that he initially he kills the painter, or no, sorry, he kills the plumber, and the plumber comes back to life and kills the housekeeper.
And
so
then,
there's sort of domino effect of
Yeah.
like one, like the artist kills one person, and then that person comes back to life and kills another person, and then that person
And then
comes
they
back
kind
to
of
life, and then
both
they're all
end
just
up-
a group of dead people.
Then they end up at a hospital filled with zombies, not the Beyond people.
That's right, because somewhere along the line we find out that in the book, there's a book,
Right.
like a Book of the Dead type book, and somebody reads. Who reads from it at one point?
I remember the picture disappearing.
Like the buddy, Liza's buddy who's in the library and gets eaten by tarantulas.
Oh yeah.
I think he's the one who reads part of it.
Anyway.
And in that, it says something to the effect of, like, if you open this, one of the 7 gates of hell, which this hotel apparently is built on, that the dead will walk again. And so we've doubled up on the artist retribution revenge sort of zombie, and then also the gate of hell being opened. Maybe the artist being killed is what opens the gate to hell. We're reaching here.
Okay, you're reaching here and you're losing me, which is, I think,
know.
a good summary of the film itself. Now, let's just hope we can elucidate even more once we get into it here.
Yeah, because
then basically
what else happens?
They're in a
Nothing else
hospital.
happens.
He stupidly shoots a bunch of zombies, not in the head,
Right.
and then they end up magically in back in the basement,
that's right.
and then they end up in hell. There, the end.
Yep.
And
I guess, is it hell or is it purgatory? It doesn't really.
I don't know.
It doesn't really distinguish, but it's.
I mean, the whole movie, they're like
painting.
They're like, oh, this is the gate to hell, the gate to hell, the gate to hell,
Right.
And then the voice that comes on at the end and says whatever. I felt like that meant like they have reached
Right. Yeah.
it.
They've gone into the beyond.
Well, let's talk about what worked for this film for us, should we?
Yeah.
All right, what worked?
What worked? What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm, Smith.
What worked? What worked for you?
The dubbing was so good. I found it charming.
Yeah, you know what?
Now that we've done a few of these, I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's distinct.
Yeah. The music is amazing.
Well, hold on. As far as I still wanted to say something off of the dubbing.
Oh, okay.
I think related enough to that I had down. And it's hard to say, like, put this under what worked for me, but it is a positive, which is why I put it here. But not just the dubbing, but the casting itself just absolutely tickles me.
Yep.
I wouldn't say it's good. I wouldn't say it's bad.
Right.
But it's closer to good in that it amuses me, it tickles me. And
Yeah.
it's something that's common in these Italian horror films where you get, I think what it is it's like you have the Italians' view of Americans.
Definitely.
And they're often more kind of like frumpy or just left of center of a typical lead in some way.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot more like...
or like not an actor.
Right, exactly. But yet they are actors.
Right.
So they find these actors who are like, when we watched Martin and talked about, all these locals that are just people he knew that he cast.
Sure.
It has that almost feel and effect to it. So there's just something when you watch a new character pop up on screen, you're just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, you know?
There was a moment, yeah, that that sort of stuck out to me of like, it's two things. One, it's bad direction. It's like a director not being sort of more specific about, telling their actors to to stop putting on that they're acting, I guess. It's subjective. For me, I don't like this. So when Joe the plumber shows up and he walks into the house, he kind of strolls into the hallway, but he does this like actor thing, which is like, he knows he's on camera, and all he should do is walk into the house like a normal person would walk in the house, and is not looking at themselves walking into a house.
Yeah.
But actors, often bad actors, even good actors, they get in their head about the most simple, mundane thing.
Which is, you wonder if it's like when you have the Italian director watching the performance, is he just equating it to like, oh, he's American like John Wayne, and this is just what it is.
Maybe.
It's going to work.
But it's so overt to me where I'm like, ugh, God, that guy he's doing walking into a house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just walk into the house, dude. Like,
right.
You don't need to kind of pause and like look around and like reach out and touch something on a
but
table.
There's something
you know what I mean?
Extra
it's just
going
like,
on too, where it's not just because again, you could have someone who has that star appeal or feels like they're an actor as we're used to them.
Yeah.
But no, it's also just like, it's this dude. It's just this dude doing that. Joe the plumber, who's played by Joe the plumber.
Yeah. But that's all to say that there's that vibe it's in and of itself its own kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Where it's like when Tarantino does a Grindhouse, homage to this. Yeah. He does that. Like, he makes the sound a little bit off. And he has the actors do things that are kind of like...
It complements the dubbing well.
Yeah. Yeah, so it almost... I think it is part of the charm of these movies, is that's the baseline.
Yeah.
And I like... It actually makes me feel good, where I'm just sort of... I know I kind of shit on the moment, but it does make me kind of giggle. Because I'm like, oh, that's this thing.
Exactly. Tickles me.
Yeah.
All right, what were you going to say about the music?
Dude, kind of the same thing. It's so dumbly bad, but amazing.
Right.
Like, it's
going for it.
Yeah, it is. To me, I'm like, this is the cliche of like 70s porn music, but 70s porn music probably was taking a cue from this type of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like funky bass and just weird synthy kind of like, maybe not even synth. Yeah, I guess it's synthy. It's just over the top in the best way. Everything's like ba 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 with a bass line and like a fucking backbeat. It's just like,
it's great. Like when some of the key like gore sequences kicked in that were more of a sequence than a moment, and like the music would kick in after a few beats, and we'd be like, "Here we go, all right, now we're in it."
It's great. It's so uniquely like in this pocket of time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like it. It actually helps me get through the movie.
Yeah,
because it's like, whoa, here we go again.
It's making you feel something.
Yep.
Yeah. I thought maybe I'll just put this in a bookend way. I thought the prologue and the ending were good.
Yeah. They've got style.
The prologue was cool. It was like a sepia tone.
Yeah.
It put me right into that, like, oh, awesome, like 1927 Louisiana, old dark house. I'll say this word a few times in it, but the biggest tease for me in this, but sorry, this isn't what worked, was the Lovecraftian vibe of it all. And then you had that cool, where it's just enough of a mystery to kind of go off of is set up at the beginning of like, what does he scream? You ungodly warlock. Yeah. And then throws the weird hot stuff on him. Yeah. Turns him into preserves him there or whatever. But then we get little mysteries of the house. I don't know. It was fun. It brought you into the style of how the movie shot, with pretty, has a neat kineticism to it.
Yeah.
And then
set and setting throughout I found quite pleasing and eerie and
Oh my God. Like, yeah, if we're talking about settings, Louisiana, the main setting of the old hotel. And then my favorite, which was just kind of indicative of everything I loved, was the basement.
Basement is so cool.
Right? And the scene that really paid off, like made me love it and sort of paid off for it, worked the best for it, the basement setting, was when Joe is first exploring it.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is kind of like more of what I wanted from the film was that uncovering a mystery kind of thing with them, where so Joe the plumber, he goes down and this place is dripping and wet everywhere.
It's so flooded too.
Starts,
it's like, and it's huge.
Yeah. And so it's huge because he hammers away at where the leak is, and then that leads to a whole nother section.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, whoa, and then that's when you get the feel of like, okay, I'm on an adventure here. We're gonna uncover some mystery. And then he finds another even older, muckier wall.
Right.
And just that felt like this old, ancient, I don't know. Yeah, exactly those things. Wall.
Behind walls is amazing.
Right. So to have the double wall, like I loved that so much. And then to have the hand come out and kill him right there. So,
and dude, that kill, the kind of claw finger going into the nose side of the eye and just like pushing the eye out is so good.
Well, let's do the kills here because that's largely what worked. I think. So that was that first one.
Yeah.
That was the first big one that really had us sit up in our seats, I think. Was
definitely.
The zombie, or no, it was like, okay, so I said we have the zombies and the beyonded, but we have a third creature, which are the muck zombies. Because you have the ones that are like more decomposed and like they were covered in the muck or whatever.
So I feel like that. Yeah, I wasn't exactly clear, but I think that that's just the artist.
Yeah,
who's been down there.
It's the same one.
He shows up a few different ways, so it's a little confusing. But the first, I think that's him the first time. That's like Joe has effectively pulled down the wall that guy was encased in.
Yeah.
And then so he gets that kill. And then a little bit later, Martha, is it Martha? Yeah, Martha is down there and she finds Joe's body in the water, but also the artist's body that is the most decomposed because it's been like in water, I guess, and covered in the plaster stuff. So I think he's the only one that is that thing, like the
I agree.
Mask,
that makes sense.
The sort of mask of the, what did you call it? Plaster, like that and like
muck.
Yeah,
That's the
muck monster. So I think he's technically the only muck monster, but he keeps showing up in different places. So it's like, is he?
Well, we know from the ending that they can't just random transportation.
That's
can
right.
happen in this world. I love that, and though as far as that specific muck zombie, that was cool.
Yeah,
as a monster.
All
right, so how about the other kills?
So, God, who's next?
Well, I mean, not even in order. Just
well, let's just get the
big one.
Library spiders is one of my favorites.
That made this film, Tim.
Why? It makes this is the thing. There's no reason. It's so arbitrary.
Well, that's why when you said it earlier that all the kills were sort of based around something to do with this artist, I'm like, did he have a painting of spiders or something? Like,
yeah, no, definitely not. You're right.
Okay, so
it's a very thin thread.
So we got this buddy who's looking for clues or whatever at the library, falls down. Then from underneath the library stacks come equal amount real tarantulas and fake tarantulas. Which is like, if you have the real ones, I don't like use the fake ones for the close-ups, but like, it was kind of odd, the mixture.
There's the real one in the foreground and then like 3 fake ones that are just sort of stationary, but like being puppeted to
No, but you had more than just the one real one in the foreground. You had,
That's true,
I felt like,
there's a few.
Yeah, enough where it felt like you could just have them. These spiders come out of nowhere. The music we love kicks in.
Why does he fall off the ladder? Do you remember? He's like pulls a book, and then a flash of light happens or something, and he just falls off the ladder. And
Well, so he becomes what's the word when you like can't move, paralyzed from the fall, presumably.
I guess so, yeah.
And then the spiders know that's their cue.
That's right. And they come out from under the bookshelf.
And they eat his prosthetic lips and eyes out and tongue. But you just see like the close-ups of these big old spider teeth just lunging at it and the blood coming out. It was incredible.
Yeah. There's also Joe's wife who gets acided.
Oh, yeah.
In the morgue.
That the little girl witnesses.
Yeah.
It's good-looking, droopy acid.
It's weird because she screams at something, but we don't see what. And then the daughter comes running in, and the mom is already on the ground, and acid is tipped over and from a shelf and falling on her. But why
acid death? Why was she right there?
There's nothing to suggest why that's the way it goes, but that's the way it went. But I love the effect of it's similar to when the artist gets the plaster on him. It sort of melts him away, because it's hot. So all of that practical effect stuff of like how limbs and eyes and skin and whatever.
Now we had another ocular based death too, which was
there's at least one other, right?
Yeah,
there's
it's
a couple.
When Martha's death, right? Where the one zombie comes back, or I think it's the muck zombie. No, it's Joe zombie.
Yeah, she goes in and the I guess it's a bathtub.
Yeah,
and
he comes up, but it was great because it was a nail sticking out of the wall, but the flat end,
the head of the nail.
And she gets her back of her head shoved through that. So then the flat end of the nail
pokes her eye out. But the eye is like stuck to the end of it. Yeah. It's so good.
Incredible.
I mean, to be honest, I think the scariest moment of this whole movie is when Martha reaches into the tub and pulls out that clump of hair from the drain.
Yeah, Tim was like, you couldn't pay me to do that.
Oh, gross, dude. I just wet hair that's not attached to somebody.
Use a glove, right?
She just rolls her sleeve up. Yeah. Oh God, that is my fucking personal nightmare. I'll take the fucking nail to the eyeball before I reach in a disgusting drain and pull out a clump of hair.
You sure about that? The other favorite, my other favorite death that I at least remember right now was when the dog attacks her. So you have the good beyonded person. I don't know if there's good or bad people who are, and when I say beyonded, I mean like they have the whited out eyes.
Right. Emily is her name, yeah.
So you have Emily sicks the dog on an attacking zombie, right?
All of the dead that we've witnessed appear in her house.
Okay, so then
including the artist.
And then after the dog saves her, the dog then turns around and attacks her for some reason.
Well, there's the whole thing of her not even really necessarily existing in, like, she's
there enough to get killed by a dog.
Yeah.
Was the dog part of her unreality too?
Yeah,
because they were always together.
It's her dog. I mean, here's the other thing. It's a seeing eye dog.
Right.
Specifically. But
anyway, just talk about what worked in the deaths.
Everything causes you to just have questions.
Right. But anyway, the dog going to her throat, like those were good gory effects.
Little puppet dog head.
And kind of like what you're talking about the acting style and the casting, the effects themselves, like they aren't realistic.
No.
At all. Because it's sort of like skin stretches. Yeah, you can see that it's just it's different from the Tom Savini Day of the Dead kind of effects or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the stretchiness is unique about it.
It feels like it's taking a cue from those, but like going further.
More blood.
Yeah, more stretchy, more teary, more blood.
Yeah.
I love the color of the blood in this, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a couple moments when it is kind of that giallo red, painty, but it's the consistency of it is not painty like, like in the first Suspiria and others like that, which I really appreciated. I was like, finally, we're getting into kind of more of a heightened realistic blood.
Yeah.
Which is fun. What happens? That's it, right? Emily just gets chewed up by the dog and we never see her again?
And then I think finally we're just on to our last two heroes, so to speak.
Yeah.
So what else worked for you?
I mean,
we talked about how it was shot.
Yeah, it's shot pretty. It's pretty sweet.
It's cool.
You know what it feels like, and I think rightly so. It feels, well, I mean, it literally is what people like Panos and Tarantino are essentially referencing in their movies in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's very specific shots. It's not just, okay, here's our basic coverage.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have a good amount of mix-up shots to sort of highlight the moments of their reaction, the next line, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Sort of extreme rack focuses.
Yeah, I like that. There's a lot of wide lenses.
And just how it's lit, too. I like it's a good in-between of stylistic and realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. All that's it's pretty fun and
engaging, I thought.
Yeah. You don't feel like, what was the one that we watched that was, it had your best friend, the cop. It's like in Maine or Portland or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Dead and buried, yeah. Like that one sort of failed at having a visual style. Where this one,
but the story was good.
Exactly. Where it's like this is feeling like the opposite of that, where there is no story really.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is, but it's fucking whatever. But the style and visual like constructs are so good.
Speaking of, I was just thinking of Dead and Buried, Tim. Because speaking of which, I gotta be.
Well, the cop.
Well, no, I had to be an asshole here. That was the one other example of a kind of otherwise mediocre film like this with an awesome ending that you ruined for me while we were watching it.
Oh, yeah.
I was like I did not see this ending coming at all. I mean, I still loved it, but I could have been so much more into it.
Of Dead and Buried or this one?
Both. That's why I say. That's why I was just thinking
one,
of Dead and Buried and this one. This
Why?
one,
because I was like, they're gonna be in the painting.
You're like, they're gonna be in the painting. And, well, I didn't see. Well, and then there they were, and I was like, yeah, wow, I'm so surprised now.
Would you have been surprised if I hadn't said that?
I loved it. Like, it was one of those things where I loved it in theory. I did not see it coming at all.
Wow.
I would have been genuinely. It could have saved the movie for me.
Well, instead, I dragged you back down into my own disgust for the movie.
I know you know it, Tim. You don't have to tell me.
I can't resist.
Well, I'm hoping after...
I just have to express myself.
I'm hoping after 2 times now...
Unlikely.
You hold your tongue. Spider bites it. I'm sorry to be an asshole, but that does get to me.
Yeah, well... We don't have to watch it together.
Well, it's fun to like for this kind of movie to rag on it throughout, but it's just like, yeah, it's just the saying what's going to happen. That's it. Takes me out of it.
If I had seen it before, I would hold my tongue.
Yeah. You're just so engaged.
Yeah, what can I say?
As I said earlier, the ending, like the prologue, did work for me. I'm like, okay, just keep the ending and the prologue as it is and make another movie in between. And
apparently, well, I mean, this is the middle of a trilogy.
Yeah, no, it's a spiritual trilogy about locations that are portals to hell.
All right. I love the look of the painting and like how it comes to life. That's fucking cool.
And it was great. It was just the kind of perfect lead up of, I don't know, it was a payoff of the whole time. You're like, what does it mean? It's a gate to hell. Da, da, da. How exactly would they get there? Da, da, da. I don't know.
How did they get there?
Exactly. It was a good visualization that you felt their sense of being trapped. Like you just walk anywhere in the fog and you're still here.
Yeah.
And having this the guy be a character who's like, well, it's just not rational throughout.
Yeah.
And you built him up where it's like all of a sudden they're in the basement of the house after being in the hospital. He's starting to lose it. How did we get here? And then it's just sort of a nice lead into the ending
It's
itself.
impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah. Well, deal, because it's happening.
Yeah, man. Welcome to fucking life.
Already talked about, I loved the setting. Like the moments that, again, I felt like were good standalone moments that sort of felt like a tease for the other movie I wanted, but the plans of the house disappearing, when he gets to, it's not the library, but it's like it's like a city building with the old architecture books. How like, oh, we're going to get some piece of the mystery here, or he just discovered something interesting about the house, and then it literally disappears. That was cool in itself. And then like the old book again, whatever it was called, just sort of, finding the old book and it's disappearing itself. That was all neat in itself.
Yeah, it's very loose little pieces of things that I'm like, if you worked a little bit more on connecting this together, I could see quite a good story in theory.
Yeah, exactly. So was the tease. I feel like that's a good transition for what did not work. But the last little thing I had was just, aside from the gore, just some other neat visuals, I want to say. Like, specifically, the one I remember was when you have the Beyond Woman, what was her name? Emily. Like, we see her for the first time standing with her dog in this, like, freeway that looks really unique to the South, where it's just sort of an extended, like, single-lane freeway that's very close on top of the water, and it's kind of all that's around. That felt like it had a really neat, dreamy aesthetic to it. I enjoyed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird. It doesn't seem like something that should exist. Yeah. And yet, it definitely exists.
You have anything else?
No, just that the book is called Ibon or Ebon. It's, the idea of it, I think, is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
It's Necronomicon-y and, it's I don't know if it's supposed to be sort of a spell book, but it reminds me very much of when I picked up the Necronomicon in Barnes & Noble, and you start flipping through, and it's got all these runes in it, and, like this particular symbol that's in this movie repeatedly that...
Oh, yeah.
Like that is scratching the surface of a bigger idea that I love.
Ditto.
So it was just cool.
Yep. Could have been...
as an idea.
Well, let's get into what did not work then.
Okay.
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
Yeah, like that book, it just felt like the perfect piece to what could have been a much more like intriguing, going further down the mystery and the depths of it all, like Lovecraftian.
Well, it actually,
set.
You say that, it is apparently based on a Lovecraft something or other.
Cool.
So, the name. So
Gates
it's like,
of Hell,
fuck yeah.
Inexplicable, dead, undead.
I think, yeah. It feels like if you're going to use that in the beginning and sort of say this is... Because I feel like the implication, or maybe they literally say this, but it's a little vague. The implication is that the artist in the opening scene, he had that book, I think. And that by reading it, he knew that the gate to hell, their seventh gate to hell or door to whatever.
In the Wikipedia summary, it was put that he was either opening it or trying to close it.
Oh, okay. So that's cool. Like, I'd like to know which one it is.
Yeah.
You know, and then give
I'd like
us
to
that.
know. I'd like to know that I'm supposed to know which one it is. Or
Right.
I'd like to know that it's a mystery.
Yeah, exactly. So if that had been a little clearer at the onset, then that opening scene sort of makes more sense. And then however you construct the reason why his corpse is coming back matters.
And like, so it was cool. Like the idea of the corpses coming back, I think were a neat just sort of way to sort of give them something to avoid and fight. Mm-hmm. Again, but like it shouldn't have been as much as it was. Like it became this weird, like for the big end finale set piece was them in this hospital, which was like a weird looking modern 80s hospital, not fun at all for this kind of location. And then it was just this dude like poorly shooting these shuffling zombies that were really no threat.
I mean, that may be the worst part of this whole movie.
Right. Which was like, that was our big ending. Like, why not have it be, I don't know, what, something that's more the promise of the premise for this kind of
Definitely.
film.
Like, I want to see the fucking portal.
Yeah, get further back in the basement.
Yeah.
Have like,
Here's the thing, like, let's just say that the zombie shit is fine. Like, it's connected to the book and the book's open. So the logic is you read the passage. It's Evil Dead, right? You read the passages of the book that reanimated the dead, and they're coming to fucking, I don't know, they're attracted to the portal to hell or something like that. Or the book or whatever. And they...
who knows?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But they're a force that you can't stop. And the only way to escape them is to use the book to open the portal to go through it. Mm-hmm. Or something to that
Something
effect.
Tangible rather than they're just kind of running in circles.
Right. I think it would be really fucking cool if all of the they work their way down deeper and deeper into the basement, which is an amazing set piece.
Do something.
Because they can't get out and they keep digging themselves deeper, and so the only way out is through this portal. Mm-hmm. If that sort of was more of the trajectory or the underlying sort of momentum of the thing, I'd be super on board.
They're just kind of along for the ride in the most passive way.
And yeah, exactly. And no decision they make changes the course of any event. Right? So they're completely passive.
Yeah.
They're just, things are just happening around them, and, you know, fucking the doctor cop, you know, he's a doctor, right? Yeah, the doctor dickhead who keeps telling her to shut up and calm down and stop being irrational. Like, he sucks. Mm-hmm. And he uses a gun that has apparently unlimited bullets until it doesn't to shoot zombies in the chest.
How about,
and
do you
stomach.
remember... Okay.
That whole thing of, like, why is it that way? Like, why did the director just be like, whatever, he can just shoot until he can't, but sometimes they'll shoot him in the head and clearly see that that's what stops them, but then not pick up on it.
How about...
that whole thing?
So within that ending, too, it was actually another great gore moment. He shoots the little girl who has been beyonded in the head.
But like, she's not dead. She's not even a zombie.
That's what I'm saying. Why did he shoot her?
Fuck?
Why? So,
because why did she go after Liza?
That's it. Why did he shot her because she was attacking her. So why was she attacking her?
Yeah, she's not dead.
That's my biggest question for you, Tim, is like, so were the beyonded people bad? Like, you had the Eliza or Emily, you had her seeming like she wanted to help out and was a good guy.
Totally.
But then you had the little girl who turned into one and like was fine at first, but then attacked him out of nowhere.
Because the Emily character we see in the opening, right? She's reading from the book.
So is the whole idea
with regular eyes?
Is that they're supposed to be unpredictable?
I mean, I think you're giving it like that. Even that idea is giving it too much like credit.
That it had some intention behind it at all.
I mean, I think the intention was this sort of metaphorical idea of like you're blinding yourself to the evils around you.
What?
I know. Because, like, she reads the book and then becomes blinded.
So what does that have to do with some of them attacking and some of them not? Some of them switching from being good to bad?
I don't think there's an answer.
Why would the dog attack the other woman?
I think it's arbitrary. Because they said, hey, now let's do this.
Yeah. Okay, well, I want to really try to dig in here. So we already kind of said like how there are these little clues or bits that feel like they could be pieces of a better movie where it's all about putting those together and the protagonists are active and they're trying to solve some mystery.
Right.
And then I said earlier how it's slow paced like a Hammer horror film, but like those don't necessarily just sort of bore me as much. Like there's still you have that trajectory. I don't know. I just want to try to use that as a jumping off point of it's not just that it's slower paced that makes this a slog. Like what else is it?
I think it's the inaction of everybody. The passivity of everybody. Nobody is saying, I think I've figured something out, and I'm gonna go off of that, and
you have the one guy who goes to the city archives and gets the blueprints,
right? But even in that, it never amounts to anything.
It felt like, so what? Like he didn't
exactly, because like let's say he finds that information and even though he's, it gets him killed, the actionable struggle would be that he is trying to relay what he has learned. And that can push our story forward even though he gets killed when they find his body. Like none of our main characters ever are in a scene where they go, holy shit, my friend just got killed.
Or you could have it so somehow the audience knowledge for getting this clue that the characters don't is working in some way for the story. But we just saw some blueprints, have no idea what it means, and then see that it disappears.
The suggestion being, I guess, that there's more to the house than we thought.
But
that means
you need a little more specificity.
That's right. It means nothing. It's just sort of okay.
Yeah, like have that be the reveal of there being 7 something or whatever it was, or I don't know.
Have somebody say,
or that room 36.
Say,
maybe there's something to that we learn.
What does it like? What the fuck does it mean? Like, what does it matter? If we can't even connect what we're driving at, we don't give a fuck. Like it doesn't matter. Nothing matters because we don't have anything to fucking hold on to.
Right.
So, okay, great. We got it. That's the problem for me. The biggest problem is the deaths are just the scenes that lead to deaths are just setups for the deaths. They're not actually through lines to understanding what's going on and why. But that's a huge problem.
Even sometimes they aren't even setups to the deaths because even though he falls and then gets eaten by spiders, you're like, why spiders? It's cool. Right. It's great.
Did he do something to make it be spiders?
What does that tell us about this all? I don't know, man.
It's just, unfortunately, it's just borderline lazy and hacky to me, where it's just like, somebody was the director or whoever were like, yeah, we don't really need to flesh this out.
I think you're kind of like what you said earlier, right? It's that they don't even think. It's not like a lazy, like, oh, we don't need to do this and it's fine. It seems more just to kind of like, they don't even think about it.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, they're just so focused on, ooh, it'd be cool. Mm-hmm. This. And then that's where it starts and stops there. Right. It doesn't actually go, yeah, that would be cool because that then thematically connects back to this and then we can build this story and we can get the characters to move in this direction because of that. Great.
No, that doesn't exist. Okay, so this happens, then this happens. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the and-thens of bad movie making.
And again, it's like I saw some reviewers describe this as, common way to describe a lot of films like Herzog and stuff, the fever dream thing, where you can have this sort of disconnected flow, but yet that somehow seems connected emotionally, or does have some sort of like just more deeper hard to pin down through line, but you feel it's there. So that for me, it was a kind of an interesting where I was trying to distinguish, well, what makes the like that, because that in itself isn't a bad thing as far as this sort of this inactive characters, we can see those events, you can make that work. But I think what you were just saying is that distinction where they weren't aware of that was even going on.
That's because it is disconnected to anybody.
Yeah.
There's no, like, if Liza is our protagonist, all of these things should be funneling to her.
Well, I think
they aren't.
It's more like you have to go, yeah, that'd be a good way to do it.
She doesn't know what the fuck's going on either.
Right. So, but if you had this kind of, you could be the filmmaker and say like, okay, this has a quote unquote fever dream, nonsensical story and plotting. That's intentional. So now what do we do to compensate?
Yeah.
And that's what's not isn't done.
And I would say one of the things you do is show the impact of that these things have, even in their sort of dreaminess, on Liza.
Right.
Like, have her have to deal with it. She doesn't... The only thing she does is sort of say, you know, this stuff is happening.
Right.
And then the doctor buddy tells her that it can't be.
No, it's like you're...
it's like, okay, well...
What you're saying, it sounds like you're describing... one of my favorite films is Inherent Vice. Oh, yeah. And that's where it's like you have Joaquin Phoenix in the middle of this intentionally... You have no idea like what's happening. Even after like 5 times, you're just like starting to get sort of this extremely obtuse plotting and like all these names. But it all comes back to just sort of him as the main character with an emotional through line, reacting to it all.
Like, I like the idea of a story where the protagonist is playing catch up or is just doesn't know what the fuck is going on. But I need to see them live in that struggle.
Yeah.
Of like if the cop, or I keep wanting to call him a cop. He's not a cop.
Because he has a gun. I know exactly.
If the doctor guy keeps telling her she's crazy, I need to see her react and like push back on that.
Yeah.
And be like, listen, asshole. Like,
or she could even succumb to it. We could see her question herself.
Yeah. But like, you need to see something.
Yeah.
She needs to have an opinion. And she unfortunately just sort of exists. We're never really with her on anything. She never really... Everybody else is discovering things and then dying. She doesn't really ever learn anything.
She might as well have been the one to die earlier.
Yeah. Like, we don't know just because she owns the house that she's the one that bought it, that she's the one who ends up being there last. Like...
It's a great jumping off point for a character, but it didn't do anything.
Yeah, like I want to see her actual struggle and go somewhere with it, even if the end is bleak like it is.
Which is great.
That should be informed by her character and like her experience as a character. Like what her needs are. Does she like what her flaws and what her needs are should impact how she ends up.
Yeah.
And in this, it's like, there's none of that.
So anything else you had specifically? What did not work?
Not really. I mean, the doctor, they keep, you've seen corpses come back to life. Stop going into the fucking morgue.
Oh, right.
Like, stop it.
Just everything about that ending was unsatisfying as far as the set piece, of them, they're running around in circles with these zombies.
Or, again, if you're going to end up in the morgue where there's a bunch of dead bodies that are going to reanimate, make it so you have no choice, that it's the only room you can go into, and then that moment of like closing, getting away from something in the hallway, finding an open door, getting through it and closing it and being like, oh, finally we're safe for at least a moment, and then turning around and being like, oh shit, we're in the morgue. That's classic reversal, right? The reversal is the positive of escaping the people in the hallway to the negative of the room that you ended up in.
Yeah.
That reversal stuff is how you progress in an active way through a sequence.
And to couple that, it feels like it should either be show that he's an idiot who can't figure out where he's supposed to shoot them in the head, but it seems like he is figuring it out. He like shoots them one in the chest twice, and then that doesn't work, so he shoots it in the head, then it goes down immediately. And then it's just off to the next one, like that never even happened.
What you know what would have made this movie for me, among other things, but really, it would have catapulted the appeal of the movie if in the midst of that way too long, drawn out fucking zombie hospital scene, Liza fucking grabbed the gun from him and just started shooting them shooting zombies in the head.
How satisfying. That's
And
not
he would
this
have been
movie,
like,
though.
he would have been like, oh, and that would feel good, right? And then she could run out of bullets and hand the gun back to him, which would in and of itself be kind of a fun middle finger metaphor for what's just gone on. Like, I would love that. I would be like, yeah, this movie is great.
Yeah.
But
It's not that movie.
It's just not, right?
How surprising would it have been if that happened? It would have felt like a different movie all of a sudden.
I would have honestly, it would have made me like cheer.
Yeah. After this whole movie of
Yeah.
seeing her be exactly inactive how you described her.
But it's a lesson in how women characters have been written for the last 100 years or whatever.
Yeah.
They're just kind of there, and there are people around them being, having actionable sort of things, even if they're
And she
dumb.
wasn't even the especially annoying thing was like, it's not even like she's the sort of heroine. No, she's not even like the side character,
No.
like love interest.
Right.
It's just, she was our protagonist from the get-go. Then you just have this putz come in out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. And be an ineffective whatever. Like, he's just there.
I mean,
He causes more problems than anything.
definitely, as far as it rings true, as far as everything you said of the man-woman roles being this in this horrible stereotypical way. But it's not like he was written any better or was any smarter too. They're both terrible.
Yeah,
it's just
I agree.
the relationship.
I mean, you remember the moment when that fucking she pulls up at a stoplight and then he pulls up and he like looks at her and he honks at her, and you were like, what the fuck? Like, what is... So now they're on a date? What, he just pulled up and picked her up? Like, what's going on?
I didn't even remember they had met.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, wait, some asshole just pulls up and honks and suddenly they get on a date?
He's our new main character. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. I mean, it is just... It's so surface level, And, I mean, is this... If you're making a movie... Don't you want to like have depth to it? Like, isn't that I guess not. I mean, it's
Again, just not thinking of it.
For me, that's the goal, is to like layer and layer and layer, so that like every time you experience the movie, you can kind of discover new things.
This is frosting with no cake.
Yes, it really is.
All right, you have things of note. You want to do that?
Sure, there's quite a bit.
All right, things of note.
Things of note!
This should be interesting.
Do you remember that town clerk guy that we laughed at when he first popped up on screen at the when he's getting the architecture plans? We're like, who is this goofy guy with glasses? That's Lucio Fulci, the director.
Of course it is.
Right.
That's so funny. Yeah, I had read that he likes to be in the movies in different places. That's
How
funny.
perfect it was, the one that we were most like, who the heck is this guy?
Yeah, look at this fucking asshole. I mean, having said all of the things we've said about like why this didn't work and whatnot, it doesn't make me be like, fuck this guy. You know what I mean?
He's doing his vision.
Exactly. And there's still a lot of charm and
Yeah.
things that I enjoy about the movie. But it is.
Well, I got this bit of
Frosting
history
with their
about him.
cake.
Apparently, he was in Italian cinema, a genre jack of all trades, where he went from comedies to westerns to musicals.
Wait, was he a jack of all trades or a Jacques of all trades?
Wait, that's French.
Shit!
Why? Yeah, you forgot this was It's funny how you conflate them. But he made an anti-Catholic film, and then like everyone in Italy hated him for it. So he took a decade off before Zombie 2, which is the only other one I've seen of his. It's just known as Zombie here. It's the one with that other famous like eye gouge moment and the shark fight.
And it's considered sort of a what would you call it? Like a
Progenitor sequel.
Yeah, it's not an actual sequel, but it sort of feels like a sequel.
Yeah,
to...
it's just known here as Zombie. Anyway, that movie too is similar to my experience with this. A couple good moments, and I can't tell you the rest of what happened, nor do I want to see it again. But that's what put him known onto the map here was Zombie, aka Zombie 2 there. But as far as that trajectory, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. It's fun to to sort of read his way of talking about the film.
Yeah.
Because he has these ideas, but they are, even this quote right here, somebody says, it's him discussing the film's concept. And he says, quote, so he's telling me this story about a couple moving into a house where, I guess this is the, who was this guy? Doesn't matter. Some other guy who talked to how do you say the director's name? Fulci or Fulci?
I say Fulci.
Fulci? Okay.
I don't know if that's right.
So Fulci has told this guy that it's a story about a couple moving into a house, and underneath the house is hell, right? And that's all he sort of says about it. He's like, the guy's like, well, what does that mean? And Fulci's response is like, it's just hell. It's hell under the house. It's the beyond.
He doesn't actually have a response.
He doesn't. Yeah, exactly. It's just the surface idea. It's just hell underneath a house.
Oh yeah. So, wait. So what does that mean? It's under the house? Oh well, it's hell. It's under the house.
Yeah.
I know. I laughed at that.
I find that
too.
really interesting because that sort of
not important.
Yeah, it paints the picture of his mindset.
That's what I mean. He doesn't even think in terms of like what that question. Another funny thing I read about how he was working on this. Since the majority of the cast were English speakers, he'd speak Italian to them. That's, he didn't know English. So due to that language barrier, most of his direction was done with like, it says, quote, on Wikipedia, miming, making faces, and moving his body in order to make the actors understand what he wanted of them. So he just like, you can imagine it kind of. Yeah, doing that, he could have mimed that, like when Joe walks in and you described that. Maybe he just gave that performance exactly.
Like he does the little two fingers walking move,
or just does it himself. Yeah. Look over here. The last little one I had was there's a restoration like what we've seen, which is really good quality restoration. Apparently wasn't available until it was done in 1998, and it was Sylvester Stallone's son, who oversaw the restoration, and Quentin Tarantino, who distributed it through his label.
Well, and I think that we mentioned before, but Tarantino, the Grindhouse movie, it's called Grindhouse, right? It's so, it's just so ripped from
Death Proof.
Death Proof
is the Tarantino one.
This era, and like it's weird to me because I'm like, in watching Death Proof, I'm being tickled by the things that are happening, and this movie has those same things. And it's almost it almost feels chicken and eggy to me, maybe because I saw Death Proof before I saw this. But I'm being tickled by it reminding me of a movie that came after it. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh yeah, this is like what's in Death Proof. But it's like, no, Death Proof is doing what this did.
Yeah.
It's the other way around. But I like the nuance of the bad, quote unquote badness, the charm of all of this a lot. Mm-hmm. But even just the special effect, the practical methods of special effects, like they said here, the dummy, they made this dummy dog, like the dog head puppet. And he called it Popola.
Oh yeah.
I just like little shit like that. It's like obviously they had a good time.
I always get excited when there's a Roger Ebert review that exists.
Oh yeah.
He gave this film a 0.5 star.
Wow, out of 5?
I think it's out of 4 for him. Is the system. But his last line, in a film filled with bad dialogue, it is hard to choose the most quotable line, but I think it may occur in Liza's conversation with Martin, the architect hired to renovate the hotel. You have carte blanche, she tells him, but not a blank check. The movie is being revived around the country for midnight cult showings. Midnight is not late enough.
Oh man, that's good.
And actually, the first comment, I didn't expect this movie's nonsensical charm to work on Ebert, and it didn't. But for horror and B-movie aficionados, this is an underrated cult classic. And then, and then the response to that one, by horror and B-movie aficionados, you obviously mean, quote, teenagers easily impressed by poor filmmaking simply because it is justifiably not as well known as far superior horror films. Damn, so...
Fucking laying down the law there.
Yeah.
Shit, dude.
So, I read his bad review. I think it's only fair to read a bad review of a review of his bad review.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah,
it's just fun because we know his voice, so it's just fun to get his take on it.
Yeah,
and he's no authority. But...
I get it. I get why I get the appeal of this movie.
Yeah,
because I think we said this about the original Halloween as well, or I said it. It feels like something you could throw on at a party and just have it exist in the background, and it would be fun to have.
It's its essence coming through.
Yeah. Like, I read somewhere, maybe it was another Ebert review or something like that, or just another review, basically saying, like, this should just be a silent film.
Yeah.
But then you would lose the cool bass line. But I get that.
I think they said, but have the music still.
Yeah. But, I would, if this was on in a bar, Perfect. I'd be like, that's amazing, because I don't want to listen to it. Mm-hmm. I want to hang out at the bar. But it'd be fucking great to have on in the background. Yeah. So, something to be said about that, I guess.
No, absolutely. You're right. I get it too. But it's just, for us, it sounds like personally, our very subjective opinion here, it wasn't, there was too much other stuff I couldn't overlook.
Yeah. I need, I like story.
Yeah. I don't necessarily need it. This one, I wanted it.
Right. Yeah, why the fuck is that? Like, why does that happen? That's what we
just spent our whole last 20 minutes talking about. I think we're good.
It's like, why? Why does some work and not?
I think we just answered that. We just talked about that. Yeah. But it's still fascinating.
It's rhetorical. I'm asking it rhetorically.
Okay, good. No, because it is still interesting, which is why we talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it?
That's it.
All right.
It's fun, but terrible.
All right, let's put a bow on the beyond and
to
see what our RecommenDEADtions are to our lovely listeners.
Well, mine is the new season of Mindhunter. Did you watch the first season of Mindhunter?
No.
Man, it's so up my alley. It's about the guys who kind of created the serial killer profiling science. Psychological stuff in the FBI, and it's David Fincher directed most of it.
I feel like I haven't
half of the episodes.
Seen
I guess
anything
for both
of his
seasons
for a while, so I'd be neat to see just for that.
Dude, I love it. It's so good.
Mindhunter season
2
is your specific recommendation.
Yeah, that's definitely specifically. I think a lot of people have seen the first. I mean, watch the whole thing if you haven't seen it. But the second season is fucking great.
Awesome. I watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure the other day.
I watched that recently too.
It's great. It's cracks me up. But you know what? There's something special about Bogus Journey, Tim.
I've never watched Bogus Journey.
They find a way to sort of take it to a level that's, I think, way more satisfying. It's super interesting, and that's my recommendation. I know most people have seen it except for Tim, but Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, I rewatched it about a year ago, and all the feelings I had as a kid of like there was something just kind of I couldn't put my finger on enjoyable about it. It came back, and I could justify it all as an adult.
Did you ever see the cartoon? Do you remember that?
I remember it, but
I liked the cartoon.
I think I had to mention it too because the new one just wrapped filming.
I know. I'm very excited for that.
It's been on my mind.
Awesome. Well,
but it's a good balance of all that. I'm really curious. All right.
When I watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure recently, after not having seen it, one of the things that always stuck out is this idea of like, in the end, when Ted is like, remember the garbage can, and then a garbage can falls out of the air.
Yeah.
That always made me go, that can't exist even with the time travel thing.
Like, where did it come from?
Where did it come from? What the fuck?
You figured it out. He has all of time to figure it out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if that was the key? That there's a whole fucking lifetime of Bill or Ted. It's Ted, right? Yeah. Trying it over and over, and it's not. He's like, God damn, how do I get this goddamn garbage can to fall in the right place?
The third one.
It's the whole premise of the third one. It's just them like sitting at a table trying to figure it out.
Like all the things that they said they had to go back and do.
Yes.
Man. We better get to doing that now.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be funny. Or like, yeah, something happens that causes them to miss the time that they like left the keys the place they did, and then that ripple in the future fucks everything up. They have to go back.
That could be fun to have a little Back to the Future 3 or 2 thing going on.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
is it the same? Do you know if the third one is the same director?
Yeah, it's the same writer director, Ed Solomon. It's the same collaborative pair. And they like Bogus Journey was kind of their full on creativity.
That's cool.
And that's vision. And that's what this one is too.
Nice.
So I have high hopes.
All right.
All right. Your turn to pull from the hat, Tim.
Okay. I'm reaching for the hat. And oh, what's that?
It's our skull bike bell, Tim. I think it's been about 7 episodes since we've heard it.
But I was going to pull a thing from the hat.
Well, don't you remember, Tim, what our skull bike bell means?
Why don't you tell me?
It means that instead of pulling something from the hat, which is why I stopped you with Bell, we are going to go see a film in theaters. We are going to go see, Tim, the new release film, Ready or Not.
I can't wait.
Me too. I actually was pretty excited to see this and the one that was pulled, The Hunt. So,
was I with you in the theater when the trailer for this played, Ready or Not?
I don't remember.
It was either you or Max. And
before Midsummer.
And both of you do the like close your eyes things. The trailer shows way too much. I watched the whole thing and was like, oh, God damn it.
Yet you still want to see it.
I still want to see it though. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm excited because I
don't go watch the trailer if you're going to go watch this. It's so fucking dumb. It just shows a bunch of shit that obviously is important.
Yeah. So we'll see you at the theaters next time, Tim.
I'm so excited.
In the meantime, you can find us at dismemberinghorror.com if you haven't already. We're on a whole bunch of podcast things thanks to Anchor. We're at Instagram at dismemberinghorror, Twitter at dishorrorpod. And what's our Gmail?
It's dismemberinghorror@gmail.com.
Great. You should email us a soundbite, a disagreeance, something that we failed to mention on our show.
A grievance.
Yeah.
Remember that time I got a grievance for saying Elijah?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we got to look out for our buddy Eliza Dushku. How do you feel if I was just calling you Time this whole time, Tim?
Like time.
Like time. T-H-Y-M-E.
Yeah. Rosemary. And
Time Aslan. In closing, thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.